ground level. So away they go from Carrick and Shannon down to Jamestown Weir. And here is where practice and training and familiarity with the course could pay a lot of dividends. Close order here. Just under 2 hours on the water now, and the strain will certainly begin to tell more and more. The fitness being tested to the utmost as crews have to change their actions. They've had legs sitting down in cramped conditions, not moving for long periods on end, and now they've been using their arms. Now they're being asked to run over difficult terrain and get their boats into the water quickly and away.
The Irish crew of Watkins and Keating making their move. Very good portage there. All these crews having practiced this portage many times before the race.
Very close order. And we're staying at Jamestown while the K2s get well on their way to the next stage. The K1s arrive to clamber out, up, across, down, whatever route they think is quickest, and into the water once more.
Alan Williams making a break there, followed by Damon of Holland.
So the lead in the K1 class changing hands then, with Williams having come back from a long way back, having capsized his boat earlier. And these, the German pair of Grothaus and Cow.
Martin Burke and Ian Pringle making their break at the portage. Martin has held the lead with Ian Pringle, and they're doing very well at this stage of the portage. Martin Burke making a very, very fast portage there and gains a good 20-metre lead.
While the two Danes arrive at Jamestown and choosing to stay in near the wall, obviously deciding that the easier track is down that side. Shorter but steeper route down the centre ramp, favoured by the British crew.
The Irish crew of Keating and Murphy heading into the water just behind the British crew.
And once more, the portage having been practiced and rehearsed, and the route chosen well in advance, enables the two Irish girls to get into the water ahead of their British rivals, who were ahead of them when they left from the other side of the weir. So 13 miles to go, and the crews neck and neck.
Now the pressure will come on because there is only a short distance between Jamestown and Albert Lough. Each crew will be vying for the front position coming into the next portage. So the pressure is going to be on all the time, with many sprints or burns as we call them. Carol Beacons and Mary Dominican making their break.
And with all the Irish crews heading for that route, I'd say there must have been discussion between you as Irish team manager and the crews as to which track they should take across that weir.
Yes, indeed. All the crews had an opportunity to rehearse their portages prior to the race.
Short distance then, as you said, between Jamestown and Albert Lough. This, the three-quarter mark on the 26-mile race. And while the girls enjoy it from one vantage point, the spectators look at it from another. And Keating and Watkins getting a little bit of advice from the team manager as they head across a long distance to get to the next patch of water. It's 200 yards across from one side of Albert Lough to the other. And the Australians still finding a little bit of strength left in those legs. The red paddles we see belong to Watkins and Keating. And this must be dangerous, Mark. Must be an awkward moment for crews to keep their balance and not capsize their craft.
Indeed, in practice prior to the event, a number of crews took a swim at this location, so it was very important that they get their portage right. As you can see, the bank is very, very steep, both on exiting from the boat and re-entry.
Aching arms and aching legs and shoulders being asked to wield the paddles once more. Careful control.
Irish crew of Banks and Connor making their break. demonstrate how hard it is to exit from your boat in this portage. You can see it's quite steep, and they really have to grab onto that concrete to get back up.
So it's a haul up the bank and a 200-yard sprint, not only for the paddlers but also for our camera crew to keep up with them. And one of the problems, of course, about covering an event like this is that most of it has to be done from land, as the crews couldn't get on the water due to the fact that they would create a wash which would upset the competitors. Now here's Rick Damon of Holland, and at this stage I don't think he cares very much whether he damages his rudder or not. He's 18 long miles into the race and still battling away with Alan Williams of Britain.
Yes, indeed, it'll be interesting to see how he manages the long drop into the water there.
So safely into the boat. So the last long 5 or 6 miles up from Albert Lough, upriver, tricky stretch of the Shannon, up to the finish in Carrick on Shannon. And in Carrick, the race between two British crews for the gold medal, and it's Paul Wells and Duncan Blythe getting the gold from Adrian Croucher and Chris Ballard. Third, Nielsen and Koch of Denmark. A packed riverbank. Here home, the first Irishman.
The Irish crew of Watkins in the front and Keating in the rear paddle across the line into a very, very good 6th place. Owen Hurley and Brian McCarthy come in a very good 9th place. Both paddlers in 4th.
Meanwhile, back at Albert Lough, the local support now realise that the Irish girls are in with a great chance of a medal. They lead through the last portage, and they get the cheers of the huge home crowd. So, Mark, they've obviously made good use of the advantage which has been obvious throughout this race, the way they've dealt with the portage at each stage.
Indeed, they appear to have opened up a lead there on the run-up to that portage, and indeed during the portage.
This is Doug Bushnell from the United States in the K1 class, beginning to feel the pressure at this stage, and this is the second British crew, and for the first time in the race, those 3 ladies' crews have been separated. This is Tracy Phillips and Heather Brough of Britain, and at this stage, I think they're prepared to settle for 3rd place. Meanwhile, Anne Plant of Britain, number 319, heads off on the long 200-metre sprint up the steep bank, which must feel like Mount Everest at this stage, and into the water once more. But even when you're in the lead in a class, things don't always go smoothly.
And appears to be having steering problems there.
Case of right hand down a bit. But meanwhile, the international event at the finish gets international support, and the home crowd really enjoy seeing Connor and Banks of Ireland come through. They give them a great cheer over the line. They finish in the K2 class in 10th. Meanwhile, a change of leadership among the trio who've been together from the 10-mile mark in the K1. Rod Kinch gets the gold for Britain. Alan Williams comes up to be second. A tremendous performance to get up after he'd capsized. And Rick Damon from Holland just couldn't sustain the pressure. He takes the bronze. And here comes Ian Pringle. How well he did to finish 4th.
Indeed, Ian seems to have used his sprinting experience over the last 5 miles to open up the lead from Martin Burke, who led from him at Jamestown Weir.
So Pringle finishes 4th, just out of the medal, but a marvellous performance. And here's Martin Burke in 7th. Meanwhile, looking as fresh as they started, almost, and with a good rhythm still, The Dutch crew of Johnny Bumstead and Neil Anderson take the gold in the men's C2. But here's the moment the big crowd on the bank at Carrick and Shannon had been waiting for, had hoped for. The arrival of Eileen Murphy and Breda Keating in the lead, a lead they held pretty well throughout the race over great rivals from Britain. And so, the girls come through in the K2 class to take their country's first gold medal. Congratulations, well done, Murphy and Keating. Second place, Gay Clough and Wendy Clapham, and Tracy Phillips and Heather Bruff were third. But the race for fourth between Carmel Weekins and Mary Dominican of Ireland lost just to the Americans Kay Dandas and Anne Hopkinson, and at the end of 26 miles to finish like that, a tremendous performance. Nice touch. And the last gold medal goes to Anders Sorensen of Denmark, the men's champion in the C1 class, the kneeling position, and 26 miles of very, very hard paddling indeed. But proud wearers of their country's first gold medals in this World Championship event, the winners of the ladies K2, Eileen Murphy and Breda Keating from